Good morning, everybody. Before we left for spring break, we were talking about different types of data graphs, and there was one that we haven't gotten to yet, and that's called scatter plots. So I'm going to go over some scatter plot information with you guys, and that's what we're going to be working on this week from home. So scatter plots are they should be very familiar to you guys already. You guys know that this here is a coordinate grid, and we have done lots of stuff on coordinate grids, but we're going to use this coordinate grid to create a scatter plot. And what scatter plots do is they show the relationship between two sets of data. So for example, the taller somebody is, the more they would probably weigh. And we all know that not every 11-year-old is going to weigh the exact same amount. So, but as you grow older, you should be gaining more weight because your body's getting bigger and all that stuff. So we can graph that kind of information. We can also graph, how many snow cones are sold in the summertime versus the wintertime. As the temperature goes up, you're probably going to sell some more snow cones than you would if it was really cold. So on Google Classroom, I asked you guys to answer a question about shopping at a mall. And I had several responses, and I really, really appreciate you guys that responded to that. I'm going to pull that here. So these are just some of the students that responded, and I just made up some numbers that you guys may have been at the mall, how much money you have spent. So yes, we know that we would probably spend a lot more money than what I have listed here, but to make our graph easy, I'm going to go ahead and use those numbers. So I'm going to start with my graph. Very first thing we're going to do is we need to label our axis, our x-axis here, and our y-axis. And we need to remember that we have x comma y. So we're going to have ordered pairs using this information here, and we're going to graph this information onto this graph here. Okay, so my x-axis, I'm going to label this down here, hours at the mall. So this would be how much time somebody would be spending at the mall. And if you notice here in this graph, that hours at the mall, the maximum amount of hours we have is 6 hours, and the minimum amount is 1. So that would be our range. And so I'm going to, since I have a long x-axis, I'm going to skip lines and say that this is going to be my 1, this is going to be my 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and then for my y-axis, I'm going to label it that it's the money spent, and we're talking in dollars. So we have money spent in dollars. And again, if you notice the range, the minimum amount that we have spent is $5 here, and the maximum amount is $35. So I don't have a huge amount of space, and if you were to count through here, we definitely don't have 35 lines to create a graph using these numbers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count by 5s. So my intervals are going to be 5. Okay. So now I'm going to title my graph, and I'm just going to say we're going to call it Spending at the Mall. Okay, so now we're ready to take this information over here that we have, and we're going to put it on our graph. So the first thing here is Alex E. We're going to pretend that Alex had 2 hours at the mall and he spent $10. So if I'm going to graph this information, I'm going to turn it into an ordered pair so that the hours at the mall, this is going to be my X numbers, and the money spent is going to be my Y numbers. So I'm going to say that 2 hours at the mall is $10 spent. So 2 hours would be $10 spent. And I'm not going to put anything labeling Alex's name. I'm just going to put a dot on there for now. Brennan spent 6 hours at the mall and $35. So 6 would be my X number and 35 would be my Y. I'm going to come over here, big fatty dot. Caroline, 3 hours and $17. And I don't have a 17 over here, so I'm going to have to kind of guess or estimate where that's going to go. Right there. Emma, 1 hour and $10. 1 hour, $10. Gabe spent 2 hours at the mall and $15. Kilton, 2 hours and $18. So it's going to be a little bit above Gabe's dot there. Kira spent 5 hours and spent $25. And Kyra was 4 hours at the mall and she spent $20 here. And Mia, 3 hours and $5. And then lastly, Tyler, who I believe does not really like shopping very much. He only spent 1 hour there and spent $15. So as you can see, there's not a straight line that's made by all of these pieces of information, but you can kind of gather some information. You know, a lot of you that responded on Google Classroom said that the more time you're going to spend at the mall, you're probably going to spend more money. Some of you are just wanting to go in the mall, buy your stuff, and come out of the mall. But really, some of you guys mentioned the longer you're there, you probably will get hungry and maybe see some other stuff that you'd like, so you probably would spend more and more money as you go. Okay, so in this case, it would be an increasing amount of money as you spent as the time at the mall goes on. So this is our scatter plot for this information here. Next up, I would like you to go to Google Classroom and answer a question about this video.